the ancient city of Cairo, one of the greatest trading locations on earth. Back in the ancient world, goods and services were priced by a unit called the deben. There was no deben coin, but it was approximately 90 grams of copper. Items that were more expensive, well, they were priced in debens of silver or even debens of gold. Some things never change, or they change very little. Copper changed to bronze, silver and gold remain. Trading is still the order of business here in Cairo. Trading medals, trading skills, trading places on the podium. It's the warmest of welcomes to you indeed to the second Cairo World Cup of Artistic Gymnastics. The setting is the Cairo International Stadium, and we have 5 finals to come for your entertainment in this rather beautiful setting of the main hall that hosts around 17,000 people when at full capacity during different times not affected by the global pandemic. The introduction of the judges for the men's vault and women's balance beam competitions. And it's an absolute delight to have your company, whatever time of day or night, wherever it is that you are joining the action from. Ollie Hogben here, and it's my pleasure to be talking you through the 5 finals today. We are in the magnificent city of Cairo in the northern section of Egypt, or Lower Egypt as it is classically known, about 100 miles south of the Mediterranean Sea. A city that has 9 million people in the city proper, but over 20 million, making up the largest metropolitan area in the Arab world, the second largest in all of Africa. In Egyptian Arabic, Cairo is known as Al-Qaeda, the Conqueror. It refers to Mars rising at the time the city was founded. Well, who will be the conqueror in these first finals here in the 3rd FIG Apparatus Gymnastics World Cup of 2022? Let us find out. The first 4 to take to the balance beam, making their way out onto the field of play. And the first 4 in the men's vault. We have 8 in total, of course. It is an Apparatus Gymnastics World Cup after all. But they are being brought out in 2 groups of 4 because we have the split warm-up system, which is a relatively new thing in these Apparatus World Cups. It came in last year. And it affords competitors the opportunity to have some contact time with the apparatus before embarking upon their routines, which is why we use the split warm-up system. 4 will go, then the next 4 will come out and warm up. So let's have a look at the runners and riders for World Cup glory. We'll start with Lucia Trinkova of Czech Republic, the silver medalist in Cottbus. Zofia Kovac of Hungary. First competition of 2022 for her. From South Africa, Naveen Daris, who took part in the uneven bars competition yesterday. And Yulia Kasyanenko of Ukraine, a senior international debutant at 15. From the USA, Paul Judah, who won silver on the floor exercise yesterday. The top qualifier, Nazar Cheperny of Ukraine, the 19-year-old who won vault gold in Cairo last year. Andrei Medvedev of Israel, World Championship medalist on the vault. And Mohammad Sharul Aimi of Malaysia, the 8th strongest in qualification. And a gentleman who has just been selected for the Southeast Asian Games for the first time. Huge congratulations to him. So those are your 4. Those are your judges. The start list for the balance beam competition. The top qualifier is Daniela Batrona of Ukraine, who won the title in Cottbus in her senior international debut. And she will go 6th in the order. the start list for the men's vault competition. The top qualifier goes second in the order. That's Nazar Cheperny of Ukraine. We'll wait until 6th for Artur Davtyan of Armenia, the Olympic bronze medalist and the winner of Cottbus and Doha. Going for 3 in a row is Artur Davtyan. Cairo favours the Davtyans. If you watched the Still Rings competition yesterday, you'll have seen Vahan, his older brother, achieve another World Cup title. It really is a great World Cup season for the Davtyans. Wonderful gymnasts, really characterised by their elegant and stylish execution. Andrei Medvedev of Israel, twice a European Championship silver medalist on vault, but also a World Championship medalist for the first time last year in Kitakyushu. As we look at Naveen Darius of South Africa, one of the greatest accomplishments of her career was achieved in this city last year when she secured a place at the Olympic Games, at the African Championships. And we look at Yulia Kasinenko now of Ukraine, the 15-year-old from Cherkasy, which is the same city as Nazar Cheperny and Ilya Kovtun. If she can achieve as many World Cup medals as those two have, she'll be doing just about fine. We have to contextualise the fact that this is the first time she's competed for almost a year. So many of the gymnasts really just getting back into international competition now. And so many of them making their senior debuts. It's one of the great joys, isn't it, of World Cup competition, especially when a new code of points comes in. We see changes. We see some gymnasts step away and take a break. Some, sadly, will choose to retire. Some will choose to retire and then immediately return. We had one of those yesterday in Oksana Chusovitna. It's a chance to see some old friends and to make some new ones. So the women's balance beam and the men's vault will run side by side. The same will happen with the men's parallel bars and the women's floor exercise. We start with Lucia Trinkova of Czech Republic, the silver medalist in Cottbus. Brilliant performance from her. The 16-year-old is from Brno. Fifth strongest in qualification. Mounts with poise. Oh, what a nice line. Just a small wobble right at the end when she looked very stable, actually. Minor adjustment coming out of the walkover. Oh, very nice. Oh, well, she just about managed to stay on, but that seemed to somewhat come out of nowhere for Lucia Trinkova. You know, there really is a very promising young athlete here in Lucia Trinkova. other than that moment right towards the end of the routine where the hands almost seemed to grasp the apparatus, that was a very stable performance. To Paul Judah of the United States of America, the silver medalist on floor. Fifth strongest in qualification, giving away a fair amount of difficulty compared to some of the other qualifiers. But his execution remains absolutely crisp, just as it was in qualification. His execution, some of the highest of any of the qualifiers. Really nicely executed Kasamatsu 1.5 twist. It'll be interesting to see how that compares. Yes, 14.6, I was about to say, compares to his execution in qualification. It did look better. He's up by a tenth. Second vault for Paul Judah. Oh, very nicely done. Very nicely done. Young Paul Judah from Deerfield in Illinois, the all-around silver medalist at the Pan American Championships. For Trinkova, it's 11.933. Her execution down a touch from qualification. Sofia Kovac will be next to go. Second strongest performer in qualification. From Hungary, Sofia Kovac. First competition of 2022. Second strongest in qualification. Very controlled mount. Powerful. 12.766 in the preliminary round. Such a controlled walkover. This is looking good. No issues whatsoever for Sofia Kovac of Hungary. She had a 5.1 difficulty score in the preliminary round. There are competitors to come, two of them who posted higher difficulty. Gymnast who was 14th in the all-around competition at the Olympic Games. Paul Judah, 14.416 for him. He gets a 14.233 for his double twisting Yurchenko. So he's added almost 2/10 from the qualification process. Nazar Chepurny of Ukraine, the top qualifier, we expect him to be posting 2 5.6 difficulty vaults. Well, yes, that was certainly a significantly more difficult vault by Nazar Chepurny of Ukraine. We expect to see a fair amount from the Dragulescu family in this final. His line was good. He was a little low on his landing. The vault champion in Cairo. In 2021, he scored 14.733 for the first. Yes, the execution down a fraction from qualification. That low landing really part of that. Yes, now again there's the extra difficulty from Nazar Chepurny. We saw Paul Judah open with the Katsumatsu 1.5 twist. Chepurny gets an extra 4/10 of difficulty by making it a double twist. $13.133 for Zofia Kovac. So she's massively improved upon her qualification score to go into the lead. That's going to be a very challenging mark to tackle. Naveen Daris of South Africa. 8th strongest in qualification. A 20-year-old from Pretoria. When she competed at the African Championships in Cairo last year, she was alongside her sister, Zelmi. First time that South African women's team had been represented by sisters, or had sisters on the team. Small adjustments here and there. More substantial on that occasion. And all of these landing adjustments are going to hit the execution mark, one suspects, quite substantially. Small hop as she dismounts. The 8th strongest qualifier, scored 11.7 in qualification. Trains at the Johannesburg Gymnastics Centre with her childhood best pal, Caitlin Rooskrantz, the winner of the uneven bars title yesterday, and the gymnast who'll be last to go in this balance beam final. Don't 19-year-old Nazar Chipurny, 14.849. He goes into the lead, a 14.966 for his Kasamatsu double twist vault. And now we go to Andrei Medvedev of Israel. 6th strongest in qualification, but there is no doubt that he has got the requisite difficulty to get onto the podium. It's the second vault we're going to keep a real eye on with Medvedev, because that's where he had problems in qualification. This first vault scored 14.766. And he does take a big stumble out of bounds. Didn't have any penalties for the first vault in the qualification round. But a strong degree of difficulty. Sukahara double pike vaults. The score is 14 for Medvedev, so he's dropped quite a lot from qualification, actually. 3/4 of a mark. World Championship bronze medalist, second vault. Hands just seem to slap down. So this will be interesting to look at when the replay comes along. We'll come back to that in a moment if we can. .5 the score for Naveen Darish. She's down by 2/10 from qualification. To Yulia Kasyanenko of Ukraine. Senior international debutant, the 15-year-old from Cherkasy. First competition for almost a year since the Ukraine International Cup in May, when she won the junior all-around title. Correction, the silver medal. 6th strongest in qualification. Oh, what a nice dismount that was from Yulia Kasianenko of Ukraine. Very good looking performance that from the 15-year-old. We are seeing some promising young athletes come through from Ukraine. These World Cups are a great opportunity for them. We've seen the likes of Ilya Kovtun in men's competition take full opportunity to become a very composed performer through the World Cup circuit. Well done to her. Very well done. She's had a good collection of podium placements at junior level. Now, Andrei Medvedev waits for his second score to come in. And it's a 14.033 overall. But what is interesting is that he attempted that Risei Guang second vault, which I believe, don't quote me on it, is a new addition to his programme. It did gain him 4/10 of difficulty from qualification. So we'll keep an eye on that as the season goes on. To Muhammad Sharul Aimi of Malaysia, the 8th strongest in qualification. 20-year-old from Terengganu, was the all-around champion at the ASEAN School Games in 2018 and has just been confirmed for the Southeast Asian Games squad for the first time. His hero, 2004 Olympian Ng Shu Wai, who won the Asian Games vault silver in 2006, the first Malaysian to do that. And he has become an accomplished vaulter as well. His Kasamatsu 1.5 twist, the starting point for his final. What a nice line. Not a bad landing at all, that from the youngster. Was a very good footballer as a child. He used to wind down after practice, would you believe, on a trampoline. That's not how most people wind down, but did that at the Bukit Payong Primary School Gymnastics Centre. His score is 14.466. That's well up from qualification. Excellent work. Now, what about this second vault from Mohammad Sharul Aimi? In qualification, 12.733. He had problems, to put it mildly. We take a breath and we wish him the best. And again, it hasn't quite happened for the youngster. Nearly. Yulia Kasianenko scores 13.4 of 5.4 difficulty. She's added 2/10 and she's gained an enormous 1.3 of difficulty. Wow. Goes into the lead. We look back at the handspring double front tuck. Just wasn't right in his rotations there, Mohammad Sharul Aimi. Good to see him, though, in this final. Had a very difficult transition from junior to senior competition. Fractured his left knee, and that had a big impact on him, as you would expect. But my word, hasn't Yulia Kasianenko done well? Into the lead. 13.599 the aggregate score for Mohamed Sharulaimi of Malaysia. Very good first vault though, lovely. His Kasamatsu 1.5 twist was elegant and well landed. So promise. And that's what these World Cups are for. That's a nice moment, isn't it? He looks at the people he's alongside and thinks, I better get a picture with those top 3 gymnasts. Maybe he'll be one of them one day. We bring out the next 4, the final 4 in the women's balance beam and men's vault competitions. We have the first, third and fourth strongest performers in qualification to come in this second half. But everything has been thrown into chaos by Yulia Kasianenko's brilliant performance, adding a mark and a half from qualification. But look at these gymnasts. The people that we've got in this men's vault final coming up in the second half, including the second strongest in qualification and the Olympic bronze medalist. We've also got the reigning Olympic floor champion too. We'll begin with Lucia Hryba of Slovenia, the 19-year-old, third strongest qualifier. Daniela Petrona of Ukraine, the champion at the Cottbus World Cup. Zeina Ibrahim of Egypt, reigning African all-around champion. And Caitlin Rooskrantz of South Africa, champion on the uneven bars yesterday. Omar Mohammed of Egypt, the 7th strongest in qualification. Artur Davtyan of Armenia, 2nd strongest, an Olympic bronze medalist. Olympic floor champion Artem Dolgopiat, he won the floor title here yesterday. James Bakueti of Australia, the 4th strongest in qualification, bronze medalist in Cottbus, and the reigning Australian champion. Welcome to those of you just joining the action here in Cairo at the 2nd FIG World Cup to take place in this wonderful historic city. We'll begin the second half of the competition in the vault with Omar Mohammed of Alexandria and Lucia Hryba of Ljubljana. It's always a great pleasure, isn't it, to watch Artur Davtyan, the man whose execution is so delightful. But he had a tricky floor final yesterday. Just caught a brief glimpse there of the Australian champion, James Bakueti. Daniela Petrona, the gold medalist from Cottbus. The Olympic champion on floor, Artem Dolgopiat. It's a very good field. Still to come, we have the women's floor exercise and men's parallel bars finals and the men's horizontal bar competition. Well, the great historic moment of his career came at the Cairo, or came in Cairo, I should say, at the African Championships the week before the first Cairo World Cup, where he won the all-around title to become the first ever Egyptian man to qualify for the Olympic Games. It was a brilliant accomplishment. We look at his teammate, Zeina Ibrahim, the reigning African all-around champion in the women's competition. It was a great event for the Egyptian gymnasts in Cairo. It was a very good one for the South African team as well. The performance of Naveen Dowries enabling her to join Caitlin Rooskrantz at the Olympic Games. It meant that it was the first time that South Africa had two women competing in artistic gymnastics at the Olympics. We've had such precious little opportunity to watch the work of the Australian gymnasts in international competition over the last couple of years for obvious reasons. I think we can all agree it's just great to have them back. And they've come back to win things as well. Lucia Hribar of Slovenia continues the balance beam final. The 19-year-old who competed at the World Championships last year. Third strongest in qualification. But we've had some big performances in this final already. And regrettably, she was just off the horizontal line. Hribar. Most of that routine was the sort of composed and controlled work that we have come to expect from Lucia Hribar. With, unfortunately, the loss of a full mark for unintentionally dismounting the apparatus. So that will not challenge Yulia Kasianenko's lead. Omar Mohammed of Egypt. Seventh strongest in qualification. If he can sort out his second vault, there's no reason why he couldn't be in contention. 23-year-old, the reigning African all-around champion, undergraduate in dentistry, Pharos University, and that is going to not trouble the leaderboard. He's had a tricky day of things. A tricky weekend of things, I should say, Omar Mohammed. The floor final was not as he hoped it would be. First time in this final that we've seen the shoe felt, named after one of the all-time sporting greats. .133 for Omar Mohammed. Well, that is now going to need to be made up by the second vault. It was the second vault in qualification that did pose him real difficulties. And it has, unfortunately, just been one of those days. The handspring double front tuck also not quite right. Oh, poor Omar Mohammed. Not today. Not quite today. But we go back, don't we, to that brilliant performance at the African Championships just over a year ago. Actually, just under a year ago. Where he won the all-around title to become the first ever Egyptian man to qualify for the Olympic Games. 11.033 for Lucia Riba. Still, Yulia Kasianenko leads, then Zofia Kovac, then Lucia Trinkova. 3 to go. And here is the top qualifier, Daniela Petrona of Ukraine. But her qualification score was 12.8. Her own teammate and fellow 15-year-old has just said, have some of that, and raised it by a mark and a half. But one thing we've learned about young Daniela Petrona at World Cup competition is she delivers in finals. What an enormous boost to her confidence it has been to be selected by Riccione Gymnastics as their first ever foreign signing in the Italian Serie A. And you can see it when she competes on this apparatus. This is a gymnast who is really showing a degree of comfort with significant occasion. Gold in Cottbus, and then in Doha, silver on the floor and bronze on the uneven bars. We look back at Omar Mohammed's second vault. Well, actually, that was his first vault. That's his second. 13 point... well, still the first. 13.066. His overall score. Not in contention. Now, here is a gymnast that, if all goes well, one would expect him to make life a little tricky for Nazar Cheperny at the top of the leaderboard. Artur Davtyan of Armenia. 14.849 is the leading mark. Davtyan scored 14.6 in qualification. Might see some difficulty upgrades. Come back to that when we look at the second vault. 29-year-old bronze medalist at the Olympic Games, the first ever Armenian to do that. Well, wasn't that so tidily landed? Goodness me, Artur Davtyan seems to have jarred himself a touch. But let's go and have another look at this. So often, when people land this vault, they land it quite piked, quite bent in the midsection. Much less so for Davtyan. His line is very secure. When you think we've seen the Dragulescu of, I believe it was Nazar Ciperni, and think about the low position of his landing compared to Artur Davtyan. 14.966, and Ciperni scored 14.733 for his Dragulescu. So there's a very good like-for-like comparison in terms of execution. He's got that skill, hasn't he, Davtyan, that he lands a Dragulescu very controlled and quite upright, surprisingly upright. Yes, Artur Davtyan of Armenia with a well-executed second vault. We'll come back to that and the difficulty score in a moment. Daniela Petrona scores 12.166. And that puts her into the bronze medal position with 2 to go. To Zeina Ibrahim Sharaf of Egypt. '18-year-old from Alexandria, the reigning African all-around champion. 4th strongest in qualification. Turning into a tricky day for the local gymnasts in the Apparatus finals. It undoubtedly is a pressure, probably self-inflicted. Zeina Ibrahim Sharaf, who took a bronze medal at the World Cup in Cairo last year, the first Cairo World Cup. This is the first time that we've seen her compete since the Olympic Games. We have to bear that in mind. She's had a long break. Now, what about the score for the Randy, the handspring front layout with 2.5 twists for Davtyan? His score is 15. And he gets 14.983 to go into the lead. So, as expected, Artur Davtyan upgrades his difficulty from qualification by 0.8 of a mark. We have a new leader. Artem Dolgopiat of Israel, 3rd strongest in qualification. He, in qualifying, produced 2 5.2 difficulty vaults. So we have to think that he is therefore giving up already 0.8 of a mark compared to the top 2. Indicating the Kasamatsu 1.5 twist to begin. Artem Dolgopiat, who took gold in the floor competition yesterday. Actually added, didn't he, the extra half twist to make that a double. So that should upgrade his difficulty to 5.6. There we go. 14.7. So he gains that extra 0.4 from the qualification round. did indicate it was going to be the 1.5. And that is compared to what we've seen a lot in those handspring double front tucks, a more stable performance. He actually was a touch over rotated and hopped forwards compared to some of the supine landings that we've seen for that vault. $11.266 for Zeina Ibrahim Sharaf. So out of contention. That means that guaranteed a place on the podium, Yulia Kasianenko of Ukraine in her senior international debut. It's at least silver for her. For Zofia Kovac, it's at least bronze. Now to Caitlin Rooskrantz, the 7th strongest in qualification with 11.8. Good x-axis on the turns. And Caitlin Rooskrantz comes off the apparatus, and that means that it's looking pretty compelling for the two Ukrainian gymnasts and Zofia Kovac to stay on the podium. And the balance beam final draws to a close. Caitlin Rooskrantz, who was the champion on the uneven bars yesterday. Yes, not quite today, but it's been a very good weekend for her nonetheless. Now, for Dolgopiat, he goes into 3rd place with 14.45. 14.2 for his handspring double front tuck. That means with 1 to go, it is Davtyan ahead of Cheperny, ahead of Dolgopiat, but we have now the 4th strongest qualifier, James Bakueti of Australia. Difficulty-wise, he posted a 5.2 and a 5.6 in qualification. So he can certainly make a good challenge here, the bronze medalist in Cottbus and the reigning Australian champion. 26-year-old University of Canberra graduate. And he starts with that, again, handspring double front tuck vault. It was a low landing. He sprung back up fast. Did he sit it down? I'll leave you to judge that as we look at the replay. Oh, it's close, isn't it? It's very close. What lower body strength by James Bakueti to pull this back up. I think he might be okay, actually. He's also a coach of junior athletes. Real vault specialist. 14, the score for Bakueti. He is up from qualification, but only by just over a tenth. So really needs an absolutely spot-on second vault if he is going to finish in the top three. This was the more difficult vault in the preliminary round. It's the Kasamatsu double twisting vault, but his hand goes down and James Bakuetti of Australia shakes the head and knows that he will not feature when it comes to the medals. But he did take a bronze in Cottbus, back on the road, back in international competition. Caitlin Roos-Krantz, the last score to come in. Gymnast who's competing at a 4th World Cup event. And whatever the score on the balance beam, a World Cup that ends with yet another gold for Caitlin Roos-Krantz in the uneven bars. She was the first ever South African gymnast to win a gold medal in an FIG competition. We're waiting on the magic number for James Bakuetti too. This is a look back at the second vault, the Kasamatsu double twist. That's his more difficult vault. 11.366 for Caitlin Roos-Krantz. 6th position for her, and all of that means that it is another debuting Ukrainian who's won gold on beam. It's just a different one this time. Extraordinary. James Bakuetti, 13.65 for him. The aggregate score regrettably keeping him away from the podium. And this means a rather magical moment for Artur Davtyan of Armenia, because he has won 3 World Cup golds in a row to kick off his season. That is little short of sensational. We'll bring you the classified results in just a moment, as the women's balance beam and men's vault competitions draw to a close here in Cairo at the International Stadium main hall. Well, Ukraine, with its young balance beam gymnasts, has done it again. And again, we must contextualise what is going on in the world of these young gymnasts. It's not for us to speak about that on their behalf, but what they have demonstrated here is extraordinary. The gold for Yulia Kasyanenko of Ukraine, the bronze for her teammate Daniela Petrona. In the middle, Sofia Kovac of Hungary taking silver. Really the star there, though, is Yulia Kasyanenko, who was the 6th best in qualification. Added a mark and a half, 1.3 of which was execution. The classified results in the men's vault competition. The bronze to Artem Dolgopi out of Israel. Silver to Ukraine's Nazar Cheperny. But this is a significant moment. Artur Davtyan, gold in Cottbus, gold in Doha, gold in Cairo, 3 in a row in the FIG World Cup calendar. It is sensational from the Olympic bronze medalist. The excellence of execution. Artur Davtyan has done it again. We'll have the victory ceremonies for the women's balance beam and men's vault competitions in just a moment. and then we'll move on to bring you action in the parallel bars and floor exercise for men and women respectively. A bit of a wait for Yulia Kasianenko, but it's going to be worth the wait, for she is about to win her first ever FIG World Cup title. Well, she's won it. She's about to get the medal. She's already done it. And he's done it absolutely 3 in a row for Artur Davtyan. Magnificent. You can forgive a gymnast, can't you, after a competition like the Olympic Games when they've made it onto the podium, having a dip in form, losing some of their intensity, their focus. Not him, not Artur Davtyan. He is so sharp. And the Davtyan brothers once again depart a World Cup event with gold medals after Verhagen winning the Still Rings title yesterday. And this young man, Nazar Chiperny, picking up another World Cup medal in Cairo after he won the vault title last year. And there is no shame in finishing second by less than 2/10 to Artur Davtyan. If you're getting close to Artur Davtyan, you're a very good vaulter. He is getting close to him. And he's got a decade on him as well in age. Well, apologies for the continued delay, bringing you the victory ceremonies for the women's balance beam and men's vault competitions. I'm not quite sure what the delay can possibly be, because the poor gymnasts have been waiting around for almost 10 minutes now. We certainly know that they're not the problem. They're here. They've been standing around waiting to get their medals, so hopefully we'll get there soon. Gives us the chance to have a look back at the highlights from the competition so far. It's now time for the victory ceremony in the women's balance beam competition at the Cairo World Cup of Artistic Gymnastics. Bronze medal to Daniela Petrona of Ukraine, her second balance beam medal in the 2022 World Cup calendar and her fourth overall. Winning the silver medal, Zofia Kovac of Hungary. Her first competition of 2022. We're used to seeing her excel in balance beam, or rather uneven bars finals at World Cup level. Now she's a balance beam silver medalist. But welcome to Yulia Kasyanenko of Ukraine. 6th strongest in qualification and a terrific performance in the final. She gained a mark and a half. She gained a lot of execution. She gained a little difficulty, and she's gained her first ever World Cup medal. It's a gold one. How's that for a senior international debut? The national anthem of Ukraine. That completes the victory ceremony in the women's balance beam competition in the main hall of the Cairo International Stadium. And yet again, we see a debuting Ukrainian at senior level taking a balance beam title. Promise for the future, no question, in this Ukrainian squad. Yulia Kasyanenko joining her teammate Daniela Petrona on the podium. And we'll move straight on now to the men's vault victory ceremony. The victory ceremony in the men's vault competition at the 2nd Cairo World Cup of Artistic Gymnastics. Recipient of the bronze medal, Israel's Artem Dolgopiat, after taking the floor title yesterday. Some new work from him on vault. Nazar Cheperny, the champion in Cairo last year, gets another vault medal in this great city. And he wasn't too far away from taking the title against one of the great vaulters. But it's quite simple. He's the man to beat in 2022. 3 World Cup vault titles in a row for Armenia's Artur Davtyan. Gold in Cottbus, gold in Doha, gold in Cairo. The excellence of execution has done it again. And we'll hear the national anthem of Armenia. And we should be used to it because they always play it when he's around. Well, you know how it goes. You hold a vault competition, Arthur Davtyan turns up and wins it. Same old story. Joining him on the podium, Nazar Chepurny and Artem Dolgopiat. And a chance to look back at how the medals were decided in the men's vault competition. Or at least a chance to see how the bronze medal was decided in the men's vault competition. Now we'll look at Nazar Chepurny, silver medalist. Just about managed to land that Dragulescu. And just keep an eye on the lowness of his landing. It was still a well-executed vault with a good line. But when you look at Arthur Davtyan and his Dragulescu vault, well, there's the difference. He's so much more upright, still has a good central line, but very little pike in his body. Hence that extra 2+ tenths of difficulty. Daniela Petrona, we just saw briefly there, the bronze medalist in the balance beam competition. Zofia Kovac, the silver medalist. The action continues here in Cairo. And at long last, because it was quite a delay getting those victory ceremonies to happen. I do feel a little bit for the gymnasts because some of them were involved in other finals. They were standing around waiting for really far too long an amount of time. But now the action continues. We have the women's floor exercise and the men's parallel bars to take place. And as is now customary in FIG apparatus competition, we'll have a split warm-up. So the first four will come out, they'll warm up and compete, and then we'll move on to the next four. And that was a decision that really was enthusiastically recommended by the FIG Athletes Commission for safety reasons to add these warm-ups to televised competition. Certainly has met with widespread approval from the athletes and from their coaches. The determiners of difficulty and the executors of execution for the parallel bars final. Highest difficulty score was from Ferhat Arujan, the bronze medalist at the Olympic Games. Strongest execution, though, was from Paul Judah of the United States of America. In the women's floor exercise, the only difficulty of 5+ was Laurie Denome of Canada, top qualifier. And her execution was also the best. We'll see her in the second half of the final. We have got the second and third strongest qualifiers to come before her. We'll start with the third strongest qualifier. The first half of the parallel bars competition. We have the second and third strongest qualifiers to compete. The top qualifier will be the first gymnast in the second half of the final. But not a great deal of separation really among the top 6 gymnasts. 3/10 separating the top 6 in qualification. First to go in the women's floor final will be Daniela Petrona of Ukraine, third strongest in qualification. We'll then see Aida Baryzhanova of Kazakhstan, the 6th strongest. Uzbekistan's Ominakon Kalilova will be next to go, the 23-year-old. And Lucia Trinkova of Czech Republic, 5th strongest in qualification, will be 4th. Rasul Abdurrahimov of Uzbekistan will kick off the parallel bars final, followed by Ferhat Arojan of Turkey, the Olympic bronze medalist and 3rd best in qualification. Second best in qualification, Ilya Kovtun of Ukraine, parallel bars champion in Cottbus and Doha. And Paul Judah of the USA will be the 4th to go as the 4th strongest in qualification. So we have just seen Artur Davtyan of Armenia win 3 vault titles in a row at World Cup competition. We could see Ilya Kovtun of Ukraine win 3 parallel bars titles in a row. The start list for the women's floor exercise, the top performer in qualification, Canada's Laurie Denome, who won 2 medals yesterday. Can she make it a full set of colours and take the gold here? The veteran Dorina Bertziger of Hungary will be last to go as the 4th strongest in qualification. She's the reigning national champion on floor. Top qualifier for the men's parallel bars final is the Cypriot Marios Georgiou, who will go 5th in the competition. Before him we'll see the Olympic bronze medalist Ferhat Arojan, the 3rd strongest in qualification, and the 2nd strongest in qualification, Ilya Kovtun of Ukraine, who is looking for 3 parallel bars titles in a row, a clean sweep at the World Cups this season. Can he do it? With Ferhat Arojan, you have lots of difficulty, primarily accomplished by his working on the single rail quite a lot. His difficulty scoring qualification 6.5 compared to Kovtun 6.3. So what it means is that Marios Georgiou, who is to come later, is going to need his execution to be extraordinarily sharp if he is to successfully defeat Ferhat Arojan. Arojan's got quite an execution cushion, should we say, because he only scored 7.9 in qualification. He can go well beyond that. Of course, all of this is threatening to trade on hypotheticals, which is very tempting to do in a gymnastics competition. What matters is how you handle the occasion of a final. We've learned that she handles the occasion of a final well, haven't we? Lucia Trinkova, the silver medalist on the balance beam in Cottbus. A good performance in the balance beam final here as well. Very nice gymnast. Brief glimpse of the 23-year-old Ominakon Kalilova of Uzbekistan. Silver medalist on the floor exercise at the South Central Asian Championships in Dakar last year. This is actually her first competition since then. And Paul Judah of the United States of America. touch warm-up drawing to a close here in Cairo at the main hall in the International Stadium complex. And it will be time to get this parallel bars and floor final started. Great pleasure to have your company wherever you're joining the action from. Ollie Hogben here. And it is lovely to have World Cup gymnastics back again in this busy start to the 2022 FIG calendar. What a busy gymnastics year as well. In terms of artistic gymnastics, it all culminates at the World Championships in Liverpool in the United Kingdom. There are continental championships as well, the multi-sport games such as the Commonwealth Games, the World Games for the non-Olympic disciplines. It's all very busy, all very exciting. We begin the women's floor final with Ukraine's Daniela Petrona. Third strongest in qualification, bronze medalist on the balance beam and the silver medalist on this piece in Doha, the last World Cup. It feels, doesn't it, that we're going to get very used to seeing Daniela Petrona in World Cup finals in years to come. The 15-year-old who was the all-around bronze medalist at the Junior European Championships in Turkey at the end of 2020. She made the floor final there. Already has taken her first World Cup honours on floor, the silver medal in Doha. To Rasul Abdurakhimov of Uzbekistan, seventh strongest in qualification. He begins this parallel bars final. The Olympian, who was best on parallel bars in Tokyo, made the top 25. This is his first ever World Cup final. Huge congratulations to him. Tidy handstand work to open. Little reset as he went into handstand position there. That'll take some tenths away. From manner position, gets good clearance. Nice arch of the back as he keeps his leg form strong going into the handstand. Didn't quite set himself right in the double tuck to dismount. Rasul Abdurakhimov of Uzbekistan. His difficulty score is not going to contend with the strongest. So he really was reliant on really full-bodied execution of that display, and that dismount will probably make it a touch tricky for him to contend. He's really got his sights set on the Asian Games in the summer, another big multi-sport event. Competed in Jakarta Palembang in 2018. 12.266 for Daniela Betrona. She's lost a couple of tenths of difficulty and 1/10 of execution from qualification. To Kazakhstan's Aida Baruzhanova. She won her third consecutive President's Cup in Almaty last year. Sixth strongest in qualification with 12.066. Some solidly executed tumbling passes in that display by the 24-year-olds. Made her senior international debut back in 2013. It's 14.1 for Abdurrahimov. And what he has done there is gain 3/10 of difficulty from the qualification campaign. So although he lost a fair amount of execution, he's done well from a difficulty standpoint. On the subject of difficulty, the man who posted the highest D score in qualifying, Ferhat Arujan of Turkey. Only the third best qualifier due to a 7.9 execution score, the lowest execution of anyone who qualified. But the Olympic bronze medalist has the potential to make a mockery of that. Sharp handstand to open. Diamidov. And there's some of the single rail work. He does reset the handstand, but it's okay. And Makut's. Yeah, that was nice. Again, the Diamidov skills executed well as he dismounts with clarity and purpose. That will be a leading score, one suspects, from Ferhat Arujan of Turkey. European champion in 2020 and 2021. When he represented Turkey at the Olympics in 2016, he was the first in 108 years in the men's competition. Isn't that extraordinary when you now think of just how good they are? 11.566, the score for Barjanova. Her execution is quite a way down from qualification. Ominakhon Khalilova of Uzbekistan, the 8th strongest in the preliminary round. 11.966 her score. Silver medalist on floor at the South Central Asian Championships in Dakar last year. This is her first competition since then. Her 7th World Cup event, her 2nd final. From Uzbekistan, Ominakhon Khalilova. She is from Andijan, a city in the east of Uzbekistan dating back to the 7th century that is actually famous for its dancing. Ferhat Arojan scores 14.8, so he's well up from qualification by 4/10. And that is going to put some pressure on Marios Georgiou, the top qualifier, and indeed on this young athlete, Ilya Kovtun. To Ilya Kovtun of Ukraine, 2nd strongest in qualification. Going for 3 consecutive World Cup parallel bars titles in a row. 14.5 though in qualifying. We've just seen a 14.8 from Arojan. Good single rail work. Small reset into his handstand, little arch of the back. Quite a crisp looking Makuts. And double tucks round nicely out of the manner position to dismount. Ukraine's Ilya Kovtun. Now, does he have sufficient difficulty to make a challenge to Ferhat Arojan? Very diligent young athlete. No doubting his commitment, his determination. Looking a touch on the trepidatious side, Ominakhon Khalilova. It's 11.933, almost identical to qualification. She's in the silver medal position, but 5 still to go. Now, the 3rd strongest qualifier, Daniela Petrona, had some difficulties, lost a few tenths. She scored 12.266. Lucia Trinkova of Czech Republic scored 12.2 in qualification. Is this a chance for her to move up from 5th spot? From Czech Republic, Lucia Trinkova, looking for her 2nd career World Cup medal after taking the balance beam silver in Cottbus. Oh, he's done it. Ilya Kovtun, 14.833. The execution sharper than Aruzhan. And he has just by less than a tenth gone into the lead. That dream of 3 consecutive World Cup titles is alive. Paul Judah of the United States of America, silver medalist on floor, 4th strongest qualifier for this final. Now, he really did this on the strength of his execution, which was wonderful. The best of anyone in qualification, 8.866, which he needs because the difficulty is a fair amount down on the top performers. Unless he's got some surprises in this final. You never know. Good distance on his Bavzar. Into the tip elt. Isn't that a lovely fluid motion up into handstand? And the popular double tuck in the front motion to dismount from Paul Judah of the United States of America. Another tidy display from this clean gymnast. He was inspired really to devote himself to the sport by watching Uchimura Kohei at London 2012 when he was a young junior gymnast making his way through the ranks. We talk about clean gymnasts, we talk about Uchimura Kohei, the great man who was just recently retired. Yes, Lucia Trinkova knew she was heading for the podium, 11.666. She's in 3rd place at the halfway mark of the competition. Still, Daniela Batrona leads. Four to go. We'll just wait for the score for Paul Judah to come in, and then the next 4 will come out. Undergraduate at the University of Michigan. He has credited collegiate gymnastics with making him comfortable actually is a competitor rather than being a great trainer, a great performer in the gym, but not when competitions come around. Well, this is evidence of it. 14.066. He gains a little difficulty, loses a little execution. Overall, he's down by 2/10 from the preliminary round. So still Ilya Kovtun, then Ferhat Arujan. One feels as though we have seen the two most difficult routines, but what of Mitch Morgan's? He'll go 6th in the final with another high difficulty score. Meanwhile, the highest difficulty score in qualification in the women's floor is to come. It is the Canadian gymnast who will go 2nd in this second group. The second half of the parallel bars competition, and we will begin with the top performer in qualification. Although he has had a real challenge laid down to him by Messrs Arujan and Kovtun. Dildora Aripova will be the first to go as the second strongest in qualification. Floor champion at the Varna World Cup last year. Laurie Denome, the top qualifier. Then we'll have Naveen Daris of South Africa. And we will finish with the veteran Hungarian Darina Bertziger, the 30-year-old who is the reigning all-around and floor champion nationally. Top qualifier, Marios Georgiou of Cyprus. We'll then see Mitch Morgans of Australia. Took a silver medal in Cottbus. Nazar Cheperny of Ukraine, who's already taken a vault medal today. And another Georgiou, Ilias of Cyprus, to finish things off. Very nice gymnast. He won a silver medal on the parallel bars in Cairo last year. So warm-up time for the top performer in qualification. The man who won 3 Commonwealth Games medals in the Gold Coast Games of 2018. And the 18-year-old from Tashkent, Dildora Aripova, made her senior international debut at the Varna World Cup last year, where she won the floor title. Very interesting, though, the shape of this men's parallel bars final, with the difficulty having been matched by strong execution by Kovtun and Arujan, requiring something more from Marios Georgiou if he is to maintain that top spot. But we would be foolish to ignore Mitch Morgans from the conversation, the 5th best in qualifying with a 6.1 difficulty score. If he can sharpen up the execution, then certainly he's in contention. We've just seen the top qualifier in the women's floor momentarily, Laurie Denome of Canada. the South African Naveen Darius. And a real floor specialist in Darina Bertseger. Not just the national champion, but the Hungarian Masters champion as well to round off last year. Nezar Ciperni will be the penultimate gymnast in the parallel bars competition. Just wonderful to see Darina Bertseger producing such high quality gymnastics at 30, late on in her career. Graduate of Semmelweis University of Physical Education and Sports Science. Made a decision to switch clubs a few years ago. There's no doubt that she is a gymnast who, despite being a floor specialist, has been reinvigorating her all-around programme of late. Tremendous accomplishment to win the National All-Around Championship last year. And there, Ilias Georgiou of Cyprus, the man from Larnaca, who was 8th in the horizontal bar final at the World Championships in Kitakyushu. We'll see him in the horizontal bar final later today. Uzbekistan's Dildora Aripova, the second strongest in qualification, floor champion at last year's Varna World Challenge Cup. The gymnast who is part of the Uzbekistan team that won South Central Asian Championships gold in Bangladesh last year. Marios Georgiou of Cyprus on the parallel bars, the top performer in the qualification campaign. Parallel bars champion at the Commonwealth Games in 2018. He also won a bronze medal on this piece at the European Games the following year. good toe point. Leg form is strong. What textbook execution of the Makuts. Oh, this is really nicely administered by Marios Georgiou. Can he keep it up? A little shy of full handstand position there, perhaps. Yes, very nice. So using the pike position to dismount. That should receive a pretty strong execution evaluation from the judges. And that was very much the case in qualifying as well. We have a new leader with a score of 12.6. Dildora Aripova of Uzbekistan goes into first place. She loses just over a tenth from qualification, but it's good enough still to lead. Now we have, though, the top qualifier. Laurie Denome of Canada, 12.933, the strongest mark in qualification. She's already taken uneven bar silver and vault bronze. Can she make it a full set of colours here in Cairo? That could well be top brass from Laurie Denome of Canada. Some good, powerful tumbling work in that display. Well controlled. She had the highest execution score in qualification. It's 14.233 for Marios Georgiou of Cyprus. He's lost a little execution from qualifying. Third place with 3 to go. Might get priced out of the market. A lot depends on this gentleman. Mitch Morgans of Australia, the 29-year-old from Warunga. He secured a silver medal in Cottbus. Came to the competition saying he'd forgotten, I should say, how long it takes to travel across the world. It's been so long. Great that he's back, and he's proving that he can win things. 5th strongest in qualification, but with a 6.1 difficulty. Oh, good rescue. So just a touch off axis. Losing the leg form a little, but he came up into that one rail handstand and snapped shut on any problems. Another overarch. Oh, he's a strong man though. Again, a flicker of an overarch position in the handstand. I tell you what, that was a great dismount from Mitch Morgans. There are some clear, very clear execution deductions. in a difficult routine, and it could well be that this comes down to, well, we'll come back to this in a moment. Let's get the score for Laurie Denome first. $12.566 for Laurie Denome of Canada. And that means that Dildora Aripova of Uzbekistan, the second strongest qualifier, has outperformed the top qualifier. Naveen Darius of South Africa, seventh strongest in qualification. 12 her score. South Africa's Naveen Darius seeking to make her way onto the podium. 12.266 is the mark right now for bronze in a final that has largely seen the competitors drop down from qualification. For Mitch Morgans, it's 13.633. He's lost half a mark of difficulty as well as a fraction of execution. So Marios Georgiou is holding on for bronze at the moment with 2 to go. Nazar Cheperny of Ukraine, 8th strongest in qualification. Again, a gymnast who's got potential to really up his execution. $13.833 in qualification. Well controlled, that potentially rather overarched handstand. Tip held sharply round into handstand. Decent travel on the Bavzar. And well dismounted too. Nazar Cheperny of Ukraine. Is there enough in that routine to surpass Marios Georgiou? We'll find out in short order. Naveen Darius scores 11.4. So down by almost 3/4 of a mark from qualification. Now, does all of this present a very experienced finalist with a chance? Darina Bertziger, the 4th strongest in qualification, but with a 12.466. Now, the leading mark is 12.6. Darina Bertziger, the reigning Hungarian champion and veteran floor medalist at World Cup competition. What can the 30-year-old do now? That is some very good tumbling from Darina Bertziger of Hungary. Now, were all the other pieces in place? Did she get fully round on all of the elements she was hoping to? 14.033 for Nazar Ciperny. He's up by a couple of tenths from qualification, but not enough to challenge Marios Georgiou. So there will be a Cypriot on the podium. It will be a Georgiou, but which? Marios Georgiou, 14.233. Ilias Georgiou in qualification, 14.2. So this is going to be interesting. Silver medalist at the Cairo World Cup last year. Clean looking Tippelt, very tidy. Not too bad with his Bavsar. Got a nice smooth action bringing the heels together for handstand. And he dismounts well too. That is good from Ilias Georgiou. Is it good enough? It might be pretty close this, you know. He was part of the team that finished 4th at the Gold Coast Games in 2018. Was the 7th best performer in qualification at the World Championships in all-around competition. It looks as though there's been good news for Darina Bertziger, and that is why 12.733, the 30-year-old from Hungary, is the World Cup champion. And it feels right, doesn't it? The quality of her tumbling, unquestionably the finest. We just have this final score to come in for Ilias Georgiou, but huge congratulations to Darina Bertziger. Alongside her, Laurie Denome, the bronze medalist. He's just done it. Ilias Georgiou of Cyprus thought it might be close. It was very close. He's there by just over a tenth ahead of his teammate Marios. Brilliant work from Ilias Georgiou. And well done too to Dildora Aripova of Uzbekistan. A second World Cup medal on floor for her. And that allows us to confirm something very significant, which is Ilya Kovtun, the gentleman in the middle, has won all 3 parallel bars World Cup titles this season. Sensational from him. Great stories all round. Really great stories. And at the heart of it all in the women's floor competition, the oldest gymnast in the final. And we will bring you in a moment the victory ceremonies for the women's floor and men's parallel bars finals. The classified results in the women's floor exercise with a bronze for Canada's Laurie Denome, her third medal of this weekend. Dildora Aripova of Uzbekistan winning the silver, her second World Cup honours. And Darina Bertsager, the 30-year-old from Hungary, with a superb performance, going up from fourth after qualification to take World Cup gold. A brilliant moment for Ilya Kovtun of Ukraine in the parallel bars competition, winning his third consecutive World Cup title. A clean sweep this season. And he does it ahead of Ferhat Arojan of Turkey as well. Ilyas Georgiou of Cyprus just about beating his teammate Marius to bronze. Let's have a look back at the crucial moments in this women's floor competition with Laurie Denome of Canada taking bronze. A silver medal to the young athlete from Tashkent in Uzbekistan, Dildora Aripova. But it is a day on women's floor for the veterans to show what they're about. The crispness of the tumbling from Darina Bertsager, crucial in her high execution score. Some excellent landings. To the men's parallel bars and the bronze medal to Ilyas Georgiou of Cyprus. Silver to the bronze medalist at the Olympic Games, Ferhat Arojan. And the title 3 in a row for Ilya Kovtun of Ukraine. And a look back at some of the other competitors in this women's floor competition, such as Daniela Petrona of Ukraine. It's now time for the victory ceremony in the women's floor competition at the Cairo World Cup of Artistic Gymnastics. Hugely well done to Laurie Denorme of Canada. 3 medals this weekend. Uneven bars silver and vault and women's floor bronze. Great competition for the 21-year-old. Dildora Aripova of Uzbekistan, the silver medalist, her second World Cup honours after taking gold in her maiden World Cup outing in Varna last year. But this is a veteran gymnast who continues to be in superb form. Dorina Bertziger of Hungary. She takes gold after bronze in Doha, and we have now the national anthem of Hungary. Terrific accomplishment for Hungary's Dorina Bertziger. And that brings to a close the victory ceremony in the women's floor competition. And we'll now have the men's parallel bars victory ceremony. The victory ceremony for the men's parallel bars competition at the Cairo World Cup of Artistic Gymnastics. And what a World Cup season it is proving to be for young Ilya Kovtun. The bronze medal to the 22-year-old Ilias Georgiou of Cyprus. His second parallel bars World Cup medal in Cairo. The Olympic bronze medalist Ferhat Adajan of Turkey picks up a silver medal in Cairo. A vastly improved performance from qualification. He added the best part of half a mark. The champion is Ilya Kovtun of Ukraine. It is an extraordinary achievement. 3 parallel bars titles in a row. Absolutely fantastic gymnastics from this young man. And we will hear the national anthem of Ukraine. Just remarkable. Ilya Kovtun, the winner of 3 consecutive World Cup titles. And when you consider things that are so obviously at the heart of his world at the moment, it is incredible. So we have around about 5 minutes time until the start of the men's horizontal bar final here in Cairo. A chance to look back at what we've seen so far. The introduction of the judges for the last final here in Cairo, the men's horizontal bar competition. And so we arrive at the last World Cup final here in Cairo, the men's horizontal bar competition, to conclude our weekend of coverage from the main hall at the International Stadium. We have in this first group of competitors 3 of the top 4 performers in qualification, but we're going to wait until the penultimate gymnast to see the second best performer, and they are somebody who is good at springing a surprise or two. We'll begin with Paul Judah of the United States of America, the 3rd best performer in qualification. Then the European Championship bronze medalist in 2020, Alexander Myakin of Israel. Ilias Georgiou of Cyprus, the bronze medalist on the parallel bars. And Lithuania's Robert Tvorokal, silver medalist in the Doha World Cup on the horizontal bar. As is always the case with any horizontal bar final, we treat with a degree of suspicion and scepticism the qualification numbers. The star list for the men's horizontal bar final, and the top performer in qualification, Cyprus' Ilias Georgiou, but keep an eye on Carlo Macchini of Italy, the second best performer in qualifying, who is last to go. He has a reputation for really packing difficulty into finals. Now the question is, are we going to see some big combinations delivered? It is the connections between the release and catch elements, I'm sure many of you know, that will really determine the high degrees of difficulty. If the gymnast can avoid the intermediary swings between releases and catches, then they'll pick up some extra tenths here and there. A lot of the gymnasts will construct their routines around Kachev variations, altering the leg position of the Kachev or the position of the hands as they regrasp the apparatus. Other gymnasts will put in skills that are based around the Kovac family. Israel's Alexander Myakin, bronze medalist in Cottbus, the gold medalist in Doha. top qualifier. Pressure will be on him. Difficulty-wise, there will be some very big work to come. You've got people in there like Miakinen who have qualified despite coming off the apparatus in the preliminary round. And he had the highest difficulty score. Robert Tvorogel, 5.4 difficulty for him. Sort of middle ranking difficulty by the standards of qualification. European Games champion and European Artistic Gymnastics champion in 2019 and 2020 respectively. Didn't make the final at the 2021 championships though, Tvorogel. Interesting to see what happens when the next European championships come around. The Munich 2022 championships as part of the wider European Sports Championships, the second of their kind. Should be a great atmosphere in the venue that hosted the 1972 gymnastics program, the Olympic Games. There's no doubt there's a lot to like about Paul Judah of the USA. He's performed impressively this weekend. Can he take his second medal, having started the competition off so well on floor? Third strongest in qualification. Again, as ever, crisp execution. Starts with a Yamawaki to hop over the bar neatly. Winds up into the Kovac. The straight Kachev all looks very nice, doesn't it? Elegant, his gymnastics. Straddle Kachev into the straight Kachev, connects the two. Very nice looking gymnast. Paul Judah of the United States of America. Good start to this horizontal bar final. Yes, his difficulty will not be as strong as that of others, but when it comes to clarity and purpose of execution, he's quite a winner. He found that the absence of competition during the pandemic almost reinvigorated his love of the sport. I think a lot of elite athletes felt that. Absence making the heart grow fonder. Good clean Yamawaki to begin. For Paul Judah, exactly the same as in qualification, 14.933. He gains 2/10 of difficulty, loses 2/10 of execution. All of it much of a muchness. Good World Cup for him. Alexander Myakinin of Israel, the gymnast who posted the highest difficulty score in qualification. He won the World Cup title in Doha after taking bronze in Cottbus. Only the fourth strongest in qualification by virtue of losing a full mark for unintentionally dismounting the apparatus. You know it will be big when it's Alexander Myakinin. It's Cassina to begin. Then adds the twist into the Kovac to make it a Coleman. Yes, good control in the dismount from Alexander Myakinin of Israel. Very secure display. He has won 4 World Cup medals. Will advance upon his 13.766 in qualification. Just be interested to look at his difficulty score as well. That was a 6.1 in qualifying. Good form in the twist position, getting the arms nicely into the body. We're just awaiting confirmation of the score for Alexander Myakinin of Israel. It certainly looked to be a less difficult routine than in qualification, where he produced a 6.1 difficulty score. 13.666, he is down by 0.6 of difficulty. His execution's up, so the trade-off leading to just a 1/10 drop overall. Wondered if he was going to produce less difficulty, having obviously found some elements of the routine challenging in qualification. Ilias Georgiou of Cyprus, top performer in qualifying, 14.1. This was on the strength of an 8.8 for execution. This was a lovely routine. Not the most difficult, but very tidy. His Cassina is fluid. His Coleman is not. And the top qualifier is out of the picture. He was 8th in the horizontal bar final at the World Championships in Kitakyushu in Japan. back in October. That time he gets the Coleman and makes it look very easy. Straight Kachev clears the bar well. Good toe point as he continues his swing into the straddle Kachev. Just seemed to catch himself by surprise in the dismount, Ilias Georgiou. Nearly, but it will be a significant drop from the 14.1 he produced in the preliminary round. One of only two gymnasts to hit 14 in qualification. There will be no repeat, one suspects, for Ilias Georgiou of the silver medal that he achieved on the horizontal bar in Cairo. That was in the inaugural competition last year. Paul Judah, then Alexander Miakinin, and then one suspects Ilias Georgiou, with 5 still to go in this men's horizontal bar final, the last final of this weekend of World Cup action, and he will be the last in the first half. The man who has put Lithuanian gymnastics on the map. With his historic accomplishments at the European Games and European Championships. Ilias Georgiou scores 12.366. He goes into the bronze medal position. Difficulty was up by 0.2 from qualification, but it's the execution that leads to him dropping almost 2 full marks. Robert Tvoregal of Lithuania, 5th strongest in qualification with a 13.5 score. He won the silver medal at the last World Cup in Doha. European champion and European Games gold medalist on this piece. Usually has some good Kachev construction. There we go. Links the straddle to the straight Kachev. Another Kachev after that. That was composed looking work from Robert Tvoregal of Lithuania, who had a rough old time of things at the Olympic Games in Tokyo, where he was 46th in the all-around competition. He was thinking too much about, in his words, the horizontal bar competition right from the start. He ended up placing 57th on horizontal bar. Thought about taking an extended break from the sport, decided just to get back on with it. As we wait for the score for Robert Tvorogel, the next four come out, the final four in the men's horizontal bar competition. We do have the second strongest performer in qualification. Other than that, we have 6, 7 and 8. So there's one very obvious contender here. Ian Lasik-Ellis of the United States of America, 6th strongest in qualification, his second final of the weekend. Ahmed El Marahi of Egypt, the 8th strongest in qualification, silver medalist at the African Championships. Carlo Macchini of Italy, who was 4th at the World Championships last year, 2nd strongest in qualification. We finished then with Artur Davtyan of Armenia, the 7th strongest in qualification on the strength of his execution, and the gentleman who won his 3rd consecutive World Cup vault title here in Cairo. The leader at the moment is his teammate Paul Judah on 13.933. Lasik-Ellis, we anticipate having the second lowest difficulty, unless he really goes for something huge in this final. Just 18, the youngest gentleman in the final. Robert Tvorogel scores 13.4. Really all bar the dismount was executed well. He lost his form a touch on the landing, and that may be one of the key reasons why he's down a fraction from qualification. Nonetheless, he's in the bronze medal position at the halfway mark. Ahmed El Marahi, 26-year-old, a geologist from Alexandria. He was part of the Mediterranean Games squad in 2018 as Egypt finished 7th in the team event. He was an all-around competitor back then. Same at the African Championships in Namibia in 2018, where he was the all-around bronze medalist. Now, you just never know with this individual. 25-year-old Carlo Macchini of Italy. Let's look at his record, and it is, shall we say, erratic. When he delivers in a final, he's explosive, he's fantastic. He was 4th at the World Championships in 2021 with a big step up from qualification. He has taken part in 8 major international horizontal bar finals. He's only improved upon his qualification score twice. The other one was when he won the silver medal at the Varna World Challenge Cup last year. Most of the time, Carlo Macchini has not been able to match or surpass qualification performances when it comes to the final. But when he does do it, he offers far more difficulty than a gymnast like Artur Davtyan can do. A call out from Paul Judah to Ian Lasik-Ellis. It's always the case, isn't it, when the US men are competing, that you hear loud cries of encouragement from their teammates. Probably more so than any other nation. Sam Mikulak was the chief orchestrator of that back in the day. Now to Ian Lasik-Ellis of the United States of America, the 18-year-old from Massachusetts, who marked his senior international debut this week in Cairo. He made the floor final. He didn't look too settled there. How about in this one? 6th strongest in qualification. Reasonably tidy looking Katchev. Straddle Katchev a little more fluid. Well controlled pirouette too. Great dismount. That was a perfectly sturdy display from Ian Lasik-Ellis of the United States of America. And no wonder he has something approaching a smile on his face, because his competition this weekend began in tricky fashion in the floor final, but that was very good. He's going to need to clean up on execution if he is to contend. And one suspects he really did pretty well all he could. Straight Katchev. That was followed by the straddle Katchev. Pretty well stuck his landing too. The home hope, the last Egyptian gymnast to compete at the Cairo World Cup. They haven't yet won a medal. It's 13.433 for Lasik-Ellis. He's up 2/10 from qualification. He's gone ahead of Tvoregal into the bronze medal position. Well done, that young man. Ahmed El Marahi of Egypt, the 26-year-old qualified geologist from Alexandria. Let us hope he takes inspiration from his undergraduate studies and is rock solid. 8th best in the qualification campaign. He didn't manage to stay on the apparatus. Little loss of form, more than a little, to be frank. Has got some big work, though. That was a good Coleman. Two Katchevs have been administered pretty tidily. Can he keep his swingfulness going into the dismount? Ahmed El Marahi of Egypt. Oh, he's put his hands down on the landing. Oh, dear. Ahmed El Marahi of Egypt. And really, it does somewhat sum up what has been a difficult weekend for the host nation in their home World Cup. They performed so well in Cairo last year, but it hasn't happened for them this time. He did have a very wild beginning and got it back together. Unfortunately, it was wild at the start and wild at the end. Much to enjoy about the lion's share of the routine, though, from the very experienced African Championship silver medalist on this piece. He's very piked as he lands, and that overbalances him. 12 the score for El Marahi, his second World Cup final. And much as was the case in Osijek in 2018, it doesn't quite work. Well, it is Carlo Macchini. Flip a coin. Let's see what's going to happen. Is this going to be one of those finals where he struggles? Is it going to be one of those finals where he throws every single kitchen appliance at the horizontal bar and pulls it off? Okay, second strongest in qualification, but the man with the potential to win it. Oh my word, what a big wind-up to start. His Coleman almost interrupts his swingfulness. One-armed giant. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Carlo Macchini of Italy. We have just seen a contending display. Carlo Macchini with some very interesting work. He started with the skill made famous by Alias Pegan. And he very well administered his dismount. Now, Macchini, 14 in qualification. Leading the way is Paul Judah of the United States of America. Unsurprisingly, Carlo Macchini has gone into the lead with 14.4. His difficulty 6.1, his execution 8.3. It was one of those days for Carlo Macchini. You always get one extreme with this fascinating gymnast, and he surely won the World Cup title here in Cairo. Artur Davtyan of Armenia, 7th strongest in qualification. 13.033. He begins with the Yamawaki. His difficulty was 4.4, the lowest of any qualifier. What he does, though, he always does well. Well, that's very nice, isn't it, from Artur Davtyan of Armenia, with his characteristically buttery smooth execution. It's not going to have the kind of big difficulty score attached to it to contend. Carlo Macchini pretty well and truly slammed his fist down and picked up the gold medal after the previous routine. But he's had a great competition, hasn't he? Artur Davtyan, 3 World Cup vault titles in a row. Dismounts very nicely. Now, what will the difficulty be here for Artur Davtyan? Any advances? $13.2 for Artur Davtyan. Same difficulty, but even higher execution than qualification. That's a very credible display for a man who is very much not a horizontal bar specialist. And all of that brings to a close the horizontal bar competition here in Cairo. And it's a glorious win for Italy's Carlo Macchini. Spectacular gymnastics from him. Well done to Paul Judah as well of the USA. His second medal of the weekend. But it is a first ever World Cup title for Italy's Carlo Macchini. The man they call bistecca, beefsteak. Well, it turns out that great performances from him are not rare. But like a good steak, he's true blue. Didn't make the final in Cottbus. He's won the title here in Cairo. Isn't that lovely? I suppose one should say really that for a man who's nicknamed Beefsteak, then it would be remiss of us, wouldn't it, to point out that that routine, well, that was well done. There are a few things in life. There we go. There it is. I wasn't making it up. Bistecca. Few things in life are as fun as Carlo Macchini in a good mood. He's just a hoot, isn't he? Paul Judah left him waiting for an age for that handshake, but you've got to hand it to Carlo Macchini. He wasn't going to be deterred. Don't leave me hanging, Paul. The classified results in the men's horizontal bar competition: bronze to Alexander Myakinin of Israel, silver to Paul Judah of the United States of America, and gold for Carlo Macchini of Italy. And we'll bring you the victory ceremony in the men's horizontal bar competition in just a moment. Let us remind ourselves of how the medals were decided, starting with Alexander Myakinin of Israel. The work of Paul Tudor of the United States of America, the silver medalist. And then to Carlo Macchini of Italy. Some very unusual work on this piece in the context of the final. It was his opening releases and catches, which one hopes we'll get the chance to enjoy again. Well, you'll just have to take my word for it. But he started with alias Pagan's eponymous skill, then the piked Kovac skill. And he's got that beautiful feature of his high bar gymnastics where he almost kicks out like a trampoline gymnast at the apex of the skill. It's got lovely, explosive form. It's now time for the victory ceremony in the men's horizontal bar competition at the FIG Artistic Gymnastics World Cup in Cairo, Egypt. That's 3 podium positions in a row for Alexander Myakinin at the World Cup Series so far this year. Bronze in Cottbus, gold in Doha, bronze in Cairo. Job well done. The United States of America's Paul Tudor has had a very fine first World Cup event. He won silver to start off his weekend on floor, took part in 3 other finals, concluding with the silver medal on the horizontal bar. But Carlo Macchini of Italy, a superb performance. From the moment he landed, it was clear that he had won the gold. Beautiful gymnastics, stylish gymnastics. Go big or go home. Well, he is going home, and he's taking the gold medal with him. And we will hear for the first time this weekend the national anthem of Italy. He's as pleased as punch about that one, isn't he? Carlo Macchini. Brilliant performance from the Italian gymnast to conclude our coverage here in Cairo. So the story of this weekend as we bid you farewell from the Cairo International Stadium and the main hall. Armenia and Ukraine, the most successful nations at this World Cup, 2 gold medals each. The remaining 6 gold medals won by 6 nations: Slovenia, Israel, Ireland, South Africa, Hungary, and last but by no means least, Italy. It's been a great pleasure having your company for this, the 3rd FIG Artistic Gymnastics World Cup of 2022. I've been Ollie Hockman, and as competition continues and moves on to Baku, I'll say goodbye, but not farewell.